As you start growing up and you kind of see what you want for your life, you could kind of create that for yourself. So even though someone might be like, oh, what good has come out of Jane and Finch? I think everything could come out of it. When you say what good, to me, that comes up to like the seeds you sow. So if you sow a lot of seeds or you put in a lot of work from years prior to now, what good in 5 years could be what's great. My name is Deluxe in Yogaraja. I go by Deluxe for short. I was born and raised in Jane and Finch all my life. I am now in community work, so I particularly am in the youth violence prevention role with the Jane Finch Center. When I think of me growing up from my adolescence to 10 years old, there was a lot of fear. I wasn't very outgoing, I was very shy, but I realized that I was very I think I was just a class clown, to be honest with you. I was really scared of what other people thought of me. And I think that that was dictating how I was going from 10 years old to probably to middle school. I had to do a lot of just putting myself out there. With my family dynamic and growing up in kind of the quote-unquote unstable family dynamic, I think that's a truth that a lot of people in Jane and Finch are living with, but they don't want to talk about. For me, I was able to kind of find confidence and relatability through that, really. So when we're younger and you're with different friends and family, you kind of could relate to oh, my family does that, oh, my family does that too, oh, how would you? So there's that emotional connection piece. Growing up, there was a lot of emotional instability that would affect me into my day-to-days. Maybe there's an argument that sat with me the last couple of days and going to school and you got to pretend to be happy, but I didn't know it was emotionally draining me. And for me, a lot of that numbness is then carrying over to my day-to-day lives. Is when people were trying to talk to me about things when I was younger, I wasn't trying to hear it really, or I'd listen to them for the sake of listening to it, but I didn't register anything. When I talk about numbness, I'm talking about really and truly ignoring everything. And then when you're in a moment where sadness or someone's can you open up to me? There's nothing there. I don't feel anything. The situations in my life that led me down the criminal justice path and kind of being able to learn from it was a lot of it had to do with emotional burnout. I use the analogy of a kettle, so I was keeping everything brewing until it was time to let the steam out, but at the time it wasn't a healthy outlet. I had an instance at work at the time where they accused me of something and I wasn't that. For example, they tried to label me as someone that stole something, but I didn't. And then they did a whole investigation and they realized that I wasn't even the person. And I wasn't talking about any of this. I literally sat with this for months without even talking to anyone about this or even saying how I felt in a moment. And when I was at that breaking point, and I think I use the word breaking point because for me, that's what it was. I literally told the line. I was a good student. I did everything that traditional. You work a job, you do the school. I think I was in my third or fourth year around that kind of emotional break for me. And when that happened, a switch flipped on for me. And I was just here I am holding myself to so much restrictions. And I looked at it, I was it's not leading to nowhere. I was just you know what? I want it now. I'm gonna get it right now. That was the mistake that led me down that path. Was I used my ambition in a negative way, as a financial crime kind of thing, to do anything and everything to get money. Then it didn't matter if it was good or bad. I wanted the nice car, I wanted the nice clothes, I wanted to go out and have spending money. I didn't want to live paycheck to paycheck and literally have nothing or couldn't afford things. And then there was my own ambition and be I'm putting in all this work and it's not even doing anything. And for me, I was in a pit. I felt I jumped into that abyss. And some people are I climbed out of it. I sat in that abyss. And I literally was just you know what, I'm not gonna even use that energy to climb out of it this time. I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna just run my course and see how far I get. So when someone is at that breaking point of you know what, school is not for me, working a 9 to 5 isn't for me. Fast money is not real money at the end of the day. And I think that's what I saw with them and I saw with my story was there's a difference between chasing money and there's a difference between making money. So I know that crime is not a longevity kind of thing. But the youth right now, I feel they feel abandoned by society. And that's how I felt too. It's like no one cares. Like what good can come out of me by working a regular job? Like what good could come out of me going to school and paying thousands of dollars and making no money out of it, right? Crime and that's why it's such a pervasive and it's uncontrollable, is that you could do anything, right? Robbery, theft, all these things, join a gang and participate for monetary funds, right? Temptation is really the root of it, really. If I want these nice clothes because people are gonna think that I'm doing better in life, I thought that too. And guess what? Those clothes don't fit anymore. I don't have the clothes that I was doing when I was like doing crime when I was younger. They don't fit me anymore. But in that moment, I thought that was the most important thing to me. The looking the part was the biggest thing to me. For me, adult responsibilities was like parenting my parents. I think that was a hard one. And I think that growing up in Jane and Finch, I saw a lot of youth do that. And that was our like touching point, because we couldn't be kids. We weren't able to have a childhood because let's say that you had to be at home to make sure mom was good, right? You had to make sure that, you know, if you were going out and stuff like that, you would come back at a certain time because your mother couldn't go to sleep because you didn't come home, right? And that was the fear. I think that, you know, there's so many like ups and downs that can happen in any community. And I don't think no one's family wants to be that down moment in the community. So there's that, like, parents are always looking at, like, they will come outside and try to call your name or call your friends. They'll be like, where is they? Where, like, if they can't get a hold of you. So there's that, like, fear that I knew that my mother was holding. So I would try to, like, make it easier on her. So, like, if my other brothers were out, at least I was at home, you know? So I did sacrifice a little bit about my childhood to make sure that the family was, like, I felt like I was the glue. So I didn't start getting into employment after high school. After high school, when I was in university, that's when I got my first like part-time job, or like in grade 12, that's when I got my part-time job. When I was younger, I wasn't making like a huge amount of money for myself, but I was exhausting myself mentally though from school, because I was the first in my family to go to university, and I was the first to graduate, and I probably am one of the few that went to school. And university wasn't like preached to us. Like, it wasn't like, oh, here's a path that I took. It was like, you have to figure that out. So that was in itself emotionally and mentally draining. I think it was the ambition, the hard working, and discipline. That's what really took me out of the justice system, because I had a record for 1 year. That was one of the stipulations for like me to like have my record removed. It was an absolute discharge, meaning that I had to plead guilty because it would be more costly if I went to trial, for example. So my lawyer and me were able to figure out, like, you know what, if I do take a guilty plea, I would one, have to satisfy a bunch of conditions that I already did, but the other stipulation was that I had to hold a record for 1 year. And people don't know this unless you had a criminal record, is that it's so hard to get a job. It's so hard to even like walk into an interview thing and they're like, yeah, this and that, and then they have to criminal record check you. And I had that like when I was 22. So like, mind you, I finished university, and COVID happened, and it was so hard to even get a job in the first place with COVID. But even after COVID too, I had that 1 year stipulation. I think I was able to overcome everything in like 2023 or 2022, one of the two. But I couldn't even get a job. Like, and it wasn't even like I wasn't the same person I was mentally. They just didn't like the record. I kept knocking on doors. That was my thing. I didn't give up. So I literally, at the time, the record actually helped me apply for different roles and different things that I didn't even have an interest in, for example. I was just doing it to get my foot through the door, to get something really, right? So I was working, ironically, I worked at a law office and a government job with a criminal record. And those are just coming from all the other experiences that I got denied for. So there was a TDSB job, for example, right? I think it was like a light teaching thing or something when I was like 22, 23. I went through it. I was almost at the last stage, because you know how it is. They tell you to go through these rounds of interviews. So I got it to the last round, and they're like, you know what, we're really impressed. And you know what, they're like, can you like do a vulnerable sector check? So vulnerable sector means that they're gonna pull up your record if they do a background check. So I told the person, I was like, you know what, like, I really do want this job, but I just want to let you know that I do have a criminal record, right? But it's a non-violent offense. It's gonna be gone after a year, really. She's like, okay, I'm gonna talk to the person that is like in charge of like that to see if it's fine. I never heard back from them. They didn't even tell me like, hey, this was the reason why you didn't. They just ghosted me. They're just like, I guess they didn't want to deal with that, but they didn't even give me the courtesy of like letting me know. So I was very like distraught by that. And after that, I just started like, before I even started the interview, I let them know that I have a criminal record, because that's how fed up I was. Imagine you did all those interviews, you think the last step, you got denied. So I'd rather get denied at the first minute, so at least I could just walk home right there and then, if they're not willing to give me that, right? So ironically, at this government job, I thought it was like, when you apply for something months before and then they call you back after and you're like, I'm already suffering. Like, I don't need a job at this point, I need a therapist. But I got a random private number call, and I was just like, okay. But what's so funny? I asked God for a sign too. I was praying for. I was like, I need something right now. Like, I'm already at my bare minimum. I can't even afford to live at this point. And I got a call. I was like, a private number. I thought it was a prank call. You know how it is, right? So I answered. I was like, hello. And they're like, hey, we just want to know if you could do an interview. They didn't even say the job. They're like, hey, do you want it? Like, because you applied for something, right? I'm like, I applied for so many things. So I was just like, okay. And I took it semi-serious, though. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, you want to give me an interview on the phone? Okay. They didn't even ask any hard hit. I'm like, yeah, this is what I could do, this is whatever. And they're like, okay, like, we want to offer you the job. And I'm like, you want to offer me the job? I'm like, I just want to let you know, like, I have a criminal record. That's fine with you? They're like, I told them it was they're like, it was a non-violent. I said, yeah, it's non-violent. And they're like, okay, come Monday. I said, all right. And that was a job I was working overnights at LCBO, and that's a government job. They're like, nah, it's like overnights. Like, no one really wants to do this job. Like, it's overnights for 40 hours on like Christmas, like the holiday time. I said, all right, I'm not gonna complain. And I did the job, and that's how I was able to do that. And then another story was like, I got a job at a law firm. It was through the laws program that I was in high school. So that connection after the fact. So that's laws in action within schools. So it's like government, lawyers, like anything with legal, really, right? I had an interest in law. I did the interview with the lady, and she asked me, and she's like, you know what, like, and I tell her, I'm like, hey, I just want to be fully transparent with you. I do have a criminal record, right? But I feel like I could do this job and I could do it well. She's like, okay, let me get back to you. And I was just like, oh man, I've heard this one before, right? I'm gonna get back to you. And I called one of my friends. Hey T, I need some advice on this job. Like, I don't know if I should tell them about this like criminal record that I have. She's like, you should. And I was just like, I've been denied so many things. I don't know if I should tell them this, right? She was like, you should just always lead with like transparency and honesty, really, right? So before I did the interview, everything, I sent her an email. I sent this lady an email, and I was like, hey, thank you again for the opportunity to interview. I know that you're gonna do like a background check, so I want to bring this up fully like transparent with you. I do have a criminal record when I was younger. It's in the process of getting deleted, but I just wanted to be open and transparent with you in regards to this. If I do get selected and I have to do a criminal record check, I just want to be open with you that I do have one, right? And I was like, okay, that was the scariest email I ever sent. She emailed me back and she's like, thank you for being honest with me. I'm gonna speak with someone and we'll get back to you. Lo and behold, she spoke with someone, she got back to me, she's like, hey, they want to still offer you the job. I said, wow. Like, I was taken back by it. And let's just say that my LinkedIn profile is getting a lot of hits because, when you're working and it was all remote, by the way. So people obviously heard about this story, and they're like, some guy with a criminal record got in and, here he is working with data and stuff like that. And it's like, people wanted to associate the name with the face, right? So my LinkedIn was getting very popular. But it was just funny because it doesn't matter how old you are, whatever, gossip will always be there. I went to university, 2015. It's a while ago, 2015, and I had a Psych 1010 course. And, I came late. I was like, open the door, every seat was taken. I had to sit on the top of the stairs at the top of the lecture hall. If I didn't come late, I would never have met Tanika, I think. and she was there. And I think I was just going. Someone's like, oh, we need one more person to join our group. And that was Tanika that was asking, because she was being a mentor to like all these other people. So there was like, I think in her group, I think there was like maybe 3 or 4 girls, and she had like one more spot. And she's like, hey, and there was like a next guy and me, and the other guy was looking confused. And I was like, hey, I'll go with you, like whatever. And I think that was the biggest thing, that me even like volunteering and be like, hey, I'll go with you. That took a lot out of me. But you know what's so funny? I'm glad I did that, because she was the right person to meet, because she was in criminology. What are the chances that you would meet someone in criminology as a mentor in a psychology 101 course? And I was in criminology too as a first year, and I think she was in her 3rd year, really. So that was just like, to me, I felt like that was some divine intervention, because the person I needed, I was able to find like right there and then. And then from knowing Tanika, she was like a big sister to me. Like we would had meetings, she would mentor me. I would ask her questions about how university was, because I didn't know one in my family could give me that answer. So she was giving me like, okay, take this course, take that course. She was looking over my essays. I never had anyone look. I looked over other people's essays. No one looked over mine. Unless it was like a friend of a friend and other things, but I didn't have those friends in university. And at the same time, when you have your friends in university, it's so hard to ask them, because they're dealing with their own stuff too, right? But she willingly like looked at my essay. She was like, hey, when you finish it, and at the time I was finishing stuff late, so she still looked at it. She's like, she normally doesn't do this, but she did it for me. And from there, I'm still in contact with her, like great relationship. She was a great friend to me, even a better big sister. So she knew me and helped me when I was younger. I would say Abdul Nur, so he goes by Moose. He grew up with me in Jane and Finch, and we went to the same middle school and went to the same high school. So I went to Brookview Middle School, and I also went to Westview Centennial Secondary School, like that long name. But I knew him, right? But when I was going through the criminal justice system at the time, I didn't know he was in community work. I've seen him here and there, but like at the time I was doing my own thing, obviously, in university and my day-to-day life. And then when I needed him the most, he was there. He was working at Jane and Finch Center well before me, and I needed someone to like help me with my community hours, because I didn't know how to like volunteer, ironically, in a community work setting. So that was my stipulation with the criminal justice system, is have the record, do your community service hours. So he was like, yo, you could come do your community service hours with me. And he had this program called Community Healing Project. So he's like, attend there, we'll give you some hours for that. So I attended, and ironically, I worked for a Community Healing Project afterwards too. So that was he opened a door for me. Like he didn't gatekeep, he didn't be like, oh, you know what, this or that. He brought me in with open arms, and ironically, that instance helped me get into community work, because I realized I liked it. That's how I was able to connect with other people that are shy, because I've been in those rooms. So I'm able to get them up and participate in those kind of things. But Abdul Nur, or Moose for his nickname, he helped me so much that I always tell him this, but saying this on video and stuff like that, he definitely changed my life. So Jamal Berger was someone that it was the ED, so executive director and founder of Kickback Foundation. So his story was very similar to mine, that he had a run-in with the justice system, and that was the relatability. Like I didn't know someone, I knew that was possible, but like seeing them in real life and then hearing their story and be like, they created something amazing was so different. So I was able to, I seen this posting for like a social ambassadors program, really, right? So I applied, and I was just like, a Hail Mary. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, whatever, right? They contact me after, and they're like, you know what, like we want you to be a part of the program. I was like, oh my God, like I could only imagine. Like I did it. It was so competitive too. So I was just glad to see that other people saw me. And they saw me at Kickback. They actually had a very supportive community. But connecting with Jamal and learning his process, even seeing the work that he's put out, like in terms of podcasts, other things, I'm like, oh, I see it now. Like I seen like there's a reason why they paired me up with him, because we thought the same way. And I felt so alone in my story, and I felt so alone in my thought process that I was like, I don't think there's a lot of people that relate to me. So I met Jamal. He mentored me. He was able to, you know, hear my ideas out. And when I share my ideas, sometimes I've been rejected based on like people hear my ideas and like, oh, that's too ambitious. Like, calm down, like, right? But with Kickback, I told him my idea, and I thought there was a little part of me that was like, oh, he's gonna say it's not achievable, or it's like something about that. There was like self-doubt with him when I said it to him. He literally looked at me and he's like, you could do this. And I was like, oh wow, like I never had someone tell me that, like someone at his level and stuff like that. So like, you could do it. And that's how kind of like the idea of finding your heart came from, right? Like it was co-developed with the youth and Jane and Finch and everything, because it's not just a name. Finding your heart was like a personal message to myself, right? That creativity, the adaptability, the patience was really big in how I found my heart. So I would say Jamal definitely helped with where I'm at right now. Why do we fall? So we could pick ourselves back up. I love that quote because one, I heard it in a Christopher Nolan movie, and two, it was part of the Batman movie. So that's what Alfred, so this is Bruce Wayne's butler, said to Bruce Wayne when he felt like it was all over. And he's like, you know, what good that can come out of this? And the guy said, you know, because he felt like it was over, like he was done, like why am I doing this journey, right? And he said, why do we fall? Because we got to learn to pick ourselves back up. So for me, it's about resilience, it's about strength, to knowing that against all odds, you could come out on top. So for me, it doesn't matter how many times I fall, as long as I still got my two legs and I still got the strength in my body, I'm gonna get back up, because I know what it was like to stay down, to stay in that abyss. And I knew what kind of person I was becoming off of that. I was done, like honestly and truly, like I thought I was down and out. But I had people that saw me in that abyss, and they were calling my name, right? All those people that I named earlier, they were the ones that never gave up on me. I could call them right now to this day, and they could give me advice. And I at the time, I felt like a lot of people couldn't give me advice, because I thought that I knew everything. And that was my mistake, was I thought like you couldn't learn. So that's why I always say I'm a student, because it brings me to that point where it doesn't matter if I know everything. It doesn't matter if I'm an expert in something. I can still learn, right? I can still learn from others. And that's what I did. Those people were the ones that helped me. And there's so many more people for sure that like never gave up on me. And that quote, it would make me cry. Like I honestly would get that tattooed if I could. So when I talk about youth violence prevention, the work that I'm doing right now is connecting with justice-involved, gang-associated youth. But that takes a certain type of mentality at the same time, right? I'm not coming in with a savior complex to be like, oh, I'm gonna save you. But how can we work together? How can we work to understand what you need, right? So when you're talking when someone is money motivated basically, or they had some issues with the criminal justice system and they want to change that, you have to understand them first. So I don't go into any practical work with them right away, like, oh, come to this session. I usually have a sit down with them, and it's very informal, casual stuff, because I don't want to feel like I'm interrogating them, right? Because I know how that felt for me. So for them, we'll have a casual conversation. Maybe we'll like play an activity, or maybe sit down, play some chess or whatever. But it has to, or maybe if they're comfortable, just sit down, literally, like very informal, like kind of thing, and just be like, you know what, like, how can I help you? Like, what are some things that kind of led you down this, so I could get a good sight of it, right? Say for example, if they have anxiety and these other things they don't like, I'm not gonna put them in a room with 50 people and be like, oh, you know what, like this is what you need more of, right? But I could slowly get them integrated to be like, hey, you know what, we have a basketball tournament, I'm playing in it, do you want to be on my team? That's it. I put the ball in their court. So when I'm talking with them, I'm not telling them hypotheticals, and the biggest thing is you have to follow through. I'm a very consistent person, and if they're consistent and they want to be up with the program, they would have every opportunity for themselves. I never say something and I don't do it. That's the biggest no-no that you would do in community work, because then you lose them, right? Oh, this person said they were going to do this and they never did it. That's happened so many times, right? And they've already had that relationship where they feel like the system failed them, and on top of that, they can't get the supports that they want or need. Right? So for me, it's like you have to be there. If you say you're gonna do it, and that's why I'm very serious about our program, because if we only have 10 spots, I want them to be serious, because if they say they're serious and they don't show up, that takes a spot away from someone, right? So I tell them, I'm like, hey, like, you don't want this to happen to you, so don't do this to other people, right? And I do fun things, so it's really hard for them to say no, because if I can't see myself doing it, I don't do it. That's just my golden rule. Like, everyone else is different. My golden rule for like when I run programs or I'm leading or organizing something, if I personally don't want to sit and do it, I don't expect anyone else to do it. So that's the trust between them. The youth that I work with is that they know that if I'm there, I believe in it to a degree. When you ask the question, what good can someone outside the community do for us? But from my perspective, I came from a very special place where I grew up in Jane and Finch. I did all my schooling in Jane and Finch. Most of my friends are in Jane and Finch. And now I'm influencing programs to help people in Jane and Finch. So that's what motivates me to stay in the community, because I have a stake in the community, right? These programs not only speak on my name, but it also speaks on what Jane and Finch could bring. You have all the businesses down there. You have so many financial districts down there. Your access to money down there is so much more, right? When you ask for donation in Jane and Finch, people are gonna laugh at you because they're barely going through it themselves, right? So how much donations can you possibly get from Jane and Finch? Most of the money that we have to get are from outside the community. But if Jane and Finch was like the downtown core, you had 50 businesses just on the street. That's 50 opportunities to get funded or get some community donations, right? We have such amazing community partners, right? Like, I would love to say that, for example, I worked at the No Frills at York Mall. So when I was working and then we had to do a community event, I reached out to Danny. He's such a great owner. He's such a great community advocate. He said, yes, I would be interested in it. And that's what we did. After he came in, he gave us a really, really good donation. And he's helped support us every year since. So he did so much for the community. I had a relationship with him because I worked there, right? So that's what motivates me to stay in the community, because we wouldn't have been able to get that donation if someone didn't personally know him like I did, right? So I have a stake, I have relationships in the communities that you can't buy. So that's why I stay in the community. I love the community. The greatest challenges that I see in Jane and Finch, I say the education system for sure. The education is not the same education that you see at different TDSP schools, and I think that's very unfair and is disappointing at most. A lot of that has to do with like poor resources. I know for a fact we didn't have the best textbooks. We didn't have the teachers that cared about it. We had teachers that did care, but it wasn't enough. Like, when you have students that came from marginalized communities, kind of like disadvantaged families in a sense, or broken homes, really. Like, that's the type of stuff that some of the teachers were actually going above and beyond, right? They were connecting with you, hearing their stories, and that's what helped me with my education. I knew that education was going to be the reason I come out of Jane and Finch because I needed to know better, right? If you know better, then you do better, right? So education, I would say job opportunities in Jane and Finch need to improve. We don't have access to, and I always bring it back to downtown because that's the most prevalent, right? So many people have to travel to downtown to get a good job, right? So why can't we have good jobs in Jane and Finch, right? What about Jane and Finch can't give good jobs, right? And we all know it's probably the environment in the sense of like what infrastructure, right? So going into infrastructure now, right? We need to have more higher institutions over here till we get paid, right? We have a good university by there, but how much of them hire Jane and Finch people? So those are would be my top reasons what Jane and Finch needs to improve on. You're in a point where everyone thought it's just all the immigrants are causing problems in Jane and Finch. Problems happen everywhere, and I hate that when someone says that about Jane and Finch. I'm like, so there's no other people in other communities? So, but I feel like they focus more on Jane and Finch because there's more black and brown people in Jane and Finch, right? Why are you gonna get out of a community that's more black and brown, but crime is everywhere, right? It's only when certain communities that they could go at, really, right? If crime happens, then okay, but does that mean that maybe because there's no funding in the community? If everyone had a household medium of $80,000, there's not gonna be a lot of crime because people are busy. Proper resources for families, right? When people are coming from different countries, They're coming from situations that are like war torn. You're coming from refugee situation, newcomer situations, right? And you're not really given enough room to adjust to the society that you're in the Western society. It's so hard for yourself, right? It's hard to figure it out you're in a rut if you don't see it. I think the humor, I think there's so much humor in Jane and Finch, like the jokes and everything. I was, like I said, I was a class clown, so like you're around different culture, you're around different, so you hear what other people are joking about, how they joke, so you get to pick up on that readily, right? So that's why I said humor is top A1. Like I think Jane and Finch, and I think that's what we need more of, like more comedians, right? Like when people make jokes and stuff, they don't see it as a career path. You could be a successful comedian, it's possible, right? But that's not the traditional career path for ourselves, right? People say like doctor, lawyer, engineer. If you're a comedian, I don't know what that is, right? Why would you want to do that for yourself, right? But now we're in an age where digital media, the internet, right? You could tell a joke and guess what? You go viral and now you have people calling me like, hey, we want you to perform here for $500 or whatever. For 1 hour? Okay, I'm calling the wave, right? That's a career. And I'd say also resilience is a big part too. Jane and Finch has been bogged down by negative media, police, different institutions have education. Like I said, there's so much things that bring us down. But the thing about Jane and Finch is that they'll let you know that it's like we want more, really, right? And I think that's the attitude I come at now, and I learn from different aspects of it. But I learned it in Jane and Finch is that never be satisfied with what you have, right? You could always have more. You could always want more for yourself, even, right? And that's where the adaptability comes in, because just because I play basketball doesn't mean I can't play soccer. I'm doing a program, Gestalt psychotherapy training program. It's a 5-year program. It's very intensive. But now I'm about to be in my 4th year in September. When I was in my 1st year, there was so much resistance because I wasn't given a space to like vent and share my emotions on a weekly basis, 6 times a month. You know, resistance is assistance. So the thing that was kind of like you were avoiding, that's what was helping you at the same time, right? I've seen all the people that supported me in my journey, so I wanted to pay it forward. I wouldn't be here without the people that believed in me, and now I'm in a position where I'm able to support other youth, right? So when they become older and they become at that capacity where like, hey, you know what? Like, look at what the work that our youth violence prevention program supported you with. Look at all the relationships you've fostered, because mind you, I'm 27. I'm transferring all the knowledge that I have into youth that are younger than me. So guess what? When they become 27, they have so much more to work with, right? And I think that's the beautiful part, is that transferal of knowledge is the future, right? We all know this, right? Especially in Jane and Finch, and I think this is a strength for Jane and Finch, is that people from the community come back, right? Versus other communities, I can't really speak on what they do over there, but I know in Jane and Finch, so much people come back and they mentor the next generation, or they share their knowledge, or maybe their resources or networks, like they open it up. There's no gatekeeping in Jane and Finch. We know each other from so many other places. And if I was gonna work with someone, I always work with Jane and Finch, because I know what it means to them. And I know that they just need that first opportunity and a second chance. And that's actually one of the guiding principles for the work that I do, but also at, FYH. First opportunities and second chances. You can't have the first without the second. I would tell my younger self, don't be afraid to try. Find love and community. Trust that you know what you're doing. Don't surround yourself with people just for the sake of not being alone. But it's rather better to be accepted, right? When someone cares about you, when they know who you are as a person, you don't need to fit in because they want you there, right? So there's just that. I think when I was younger, going back and looking back at it, I was with different friend groups and stuff like that, and they just weren't for me. And I think that was the biggest learning point, to realize that when someone is not for you. But from that experiences and everything, I was able to form my own community. And I think that was empowering, because I don't think we leave anyone behind. We work with people, we stay with them. I think we're in the process of growing similar, like downtown. We have different infrastructures growing in now, so like LRTs coming in, so now we have more people coming in, which is great. for businesses. It's really great for the community because now it's different insights. What I hope for is more infrastructure to be built. I think the education system as well. So when we're talking about institutions, I want 10 years from now, I would like them to be better, right? So why not Jane and Finch? Why can't we have something so good that people outside the community want to come in, right? That's my goal, is to have something that like only people in Jane and Finch are experts in, right? And that Jane and Finch people are teaching everyone else. That's my goal for Jane and Finch in total, is to have something that Jane and Finch is the sole creators of. And I think that we're in the process of it. Give us 10 years. I'm gonna come back to this in 10 years and see if we did it. The most important lesson that I've learned is keep believing in yourself. I know that life gets you down and there's moments where like you don't see that light at the end of the tunnel. You shouldn't give up, right? And I think that was a good testament to a lot of the work that I was doing. Is like there's moments and years in my time where I'm like, oh, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now, right? When I was 20, 21, I didn't know life will get better for me. I thought it was just gonna be struggle and turmoil all this time, right? But I was looking at the glass half empty, right? When now I look at it half full, because all the things I was doing when I was younger and building and stuff like that, that's what I'm living off of right now. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that I never be complacent. I would say try to create something, right? And if you can't create something, support someone that is creating something, because that's the true growth of something. I'll give you an example with Finding Your Heart in FYH. The way that we are positioning the youth collective that we're working with is for them to embrace collaboration, embrace networking, right? It doesn't just stop in Jane and Finch, for example, right? We've worked with partners in Scarborough. We worked in partners in Rexdale. We're working with partners in Jane and Lawrence. Like, this idea in itself shouldn't just be stuck in one area, right? And when I say at Jane and Finch people are the experts, that means we're transferring knowledge to other organizations, other community members, different areas of Toronto. So that's what I say when I say be a creative, or support a creative to build up something. There's so much talent in Jane and Finch that it's so many opportunities that you can make for yourself in today's day and age. And that's what I see for myself. Like, never think that like one bad year is it. It gets better. It really takes a special type of person, to be honest with you. That you need to believe in yourself. You need to believe in your vision, right? You can't go halfway and have some other counter bet. Like, go all in, right? But also be mindful, right? Don't just go all in as a gamble, right? Like, then you're risking everything, right? Go enough that at least you have something to fall back on. That would be my biggest takeaway from everything that I've accomplished in my life and done in my life, is that you gotta have options. You gotta see it through. I think dreams come out of Jane and Finch. What good? A dream could come out of it. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have a dream. I didn't have a direction for myself. I know more about myself now from that dream. So what good? You know, it's endless.